folks, this is Darnell Mack with Stamps by Kate. I started a project last week at a quilt show, just some scraps that I have left over of a much larger project, and it was perfect for stamping a bunch of diamonds to make a tumbling block quilt. In this case, I'm making a large one out of a bunch of blues. But with those scraps, I just started stamping these things, and as you can see, my stamps has got the dash line for stitching. At this point, I'm putting my tumbling blocks together. This is a great pattern for taking up a lot of scraps. You can use any size of diamond. I just happen to be working with a 1-inch today, but I'm also doing one with a 3-inch diamond as well. I'll show you that project. You'll see it on Facebook and whatnot. So the whole trick of doing a tumbling block is sorting your mediums, darks, and lights. And so in my 10, I've got all my darks, my lights, and these are mediums. Now sometimes the mediums and the lights can play against each other because so they're interchangeable. It's just when you go to create your block, you always have a dark, medium, and a light. And you get to decide where this is at, but you want to keep it very consistent. And so concentrate on this one little block, make it, and then figure out the next one. So in this case, I'm already finishing one here. And so you can see that I've got my dark, medium, and light. This one, depending upon the combination of fabrics, this one could just as easily be a light as well. Just depends on your fabric choices for that one block. This makes the tumbling block. It gives a really cool 3D effect. So this is how I'm setting up my blocks. They're going to interlock with each other, but this is so I don't have to keep up with a pile of littles like this. So eventually I'll put those into those, and then I'll string them together into rows and make a much larger quilt. Yeah, so let's get started. So I take my two diamonds, right sides together, put a pin at my end point, check the shinies to see if I've got it on the back, and gee, that was a long ways off. Okay. So you can see my little back end of the straight pin, and I've got it on the front. Now I have my needle and thread. Take a bite of the fabric and check that side as well. And so you can see it was a little bit off, so I squish it over there with my thumb and forefinger. Okay, now I'm good. Oops, pulled it all the way through. I don't knot my thread. But here's what I do. That was my first stitch. Here's my first back stitch, my second back stitch, and that's not coming out. You always want to test it if you're not knotting it intentionally. And now I just do a simple running stitch. I stop on this side of the straight pin because if I go past, I'm in the seam allowance. A seam allowance will cause a pucker. So I don't go past. Now I took my first stitch, my first back stitch, and my second back stitch. And in this case, well, I might have enough thread. I think I'll play chicken with my thread. See if I can make how far I can get on putting this light one in. So I lay it down, and this is because I invariably will get them switched. So I do a sanity check on it. All right, so now I'm going to put the light in. Now I'm moving the seam allowances to the side here, so you can see where that last stitch is right there. And I'm going to push my straight pin through, and you can see that straight pin is right there at that point. And I take a bite of fabric on this side. All right, That's good enough for me. My first back stitch, my first stitch, my first back stitch, my second back stitch, and I'm good. That's not a lot of thread. I'll have to stop at some point. Now I just take my running stitch. Now again, I'm on this side of the straight pin. So I'm going to take that out now. And I'll do my back stitch right on top of that, making sure that I don't get into the seam allowance. And so see, there's that little gap. That's what I want to see. Maybe not that big, but you know what? It'll all come together in the end. So now well, let's see if I can get one more stitch. I'll pivot it. Now I'm going to take this part that's tucked up underneath and pull it out. And I pull it pretty rough because I don't want the seam allowance to get tucked in there. And my end point, check it on the other side. Take a bite of fabric so you can see right here where that straight pin is. You want to get it, see if that'll show up better. All right, so notice the straight pin doesn't get on the stitch line or the dashed line right there. Mainly that stitch line because that's where the really critical part comes in. And then it's not over here, of course, either. So now I take that first stitch and my back stitches. That was my second. And I am definitely not going to be able to go further. Nope. So I've already done that back stitch, so that's good. So I'm going to needle up again. I have one that's got needle and thread on it. And I'm going to do another back stitch. So there's my first stitch, my first back stitch, and my second back stitch. Now I continue with my running stitch. I stop before that straight pin and pull it through. Smooth out the gathers just to check. And there you go. Ooh, I stabbed myself. All right, there's my tumbling block. So now I'm going to turn it over and press my seams open. You want your seam allowances to go in the same direction. And once I get this point right here, I'll give it a thumb press, just like that. Notice, see how it just makes that pretty little rose thingy, flower thingy on the back side? You can use a little wooden iron if you want. I don't always, but I'm at the table. And there you go. I finished my first tumbling block. So I'll add it to the stack. I've got another one ready to go. And let's do this one. Straight pin, there you go. First back stitch, second back stitch, and now I do my running stitch. I stop before the straight pin, smooth out the gathers, my first back stitch, and my second back stitch. Now I pulled it tight, it's not going to come out. Got my thread. Alright, so I've got my dark, medium, and my light, so I'm good to go. Check it on that side and I'm fine. take a little bite out of on the back. See, it's all lined up. My first stitch, my first back stitch, my second back stitch. And now I just continue with the running stitch. Stop on this side of the straight pin, and I take my first back stitch, second back stitch. Check it, make sure I'm not causing a pucker right there by picking up into the seam allowance. Straight pin at the end point, check it on that side, pull this out, and go again. First back stitch, second back stitch, and then I can continue with my running stitch. Stop before the straight pin, pull it through, first back stitch, second back stitch. All right, folks, that finishes my first tumbling block, my second tumbling block. This goes really fast, and it's really mindless if you're working in the car as you're traveling or something like that, or just sitting at the TV or waiting at a doctor's office. And there you go. So now I just need to put these together and start stitching up my little blocks. That's the next step. And so you figure out where you want your darks and lights and mediums, and the whole trick to doing a tumbling block is keeping it consistent of where your dark, medium, lights are at. It doesn't matter the colors, just work on one little tumbling block at a time and have fun with it. Have a great day, folks. Bye now.